Why didn't somebody tell me I screwed up episode 70 with Dave Jackson? On this episode of Podcastification, we're going to talk about what you should do when you do some kind of boneheaded thing and screw up your recording and you don't even know about it, like I just did. My name is Kerry Green, and I am the client happiness guy at podcastfasttrack.com, and this is Podcastification. This show is all about podcasting. How to do it, how not to do it, best practices, interesting news items that have to do with the realm of podcasting, and who knows what else. And I'm trying to do it all with a little bit of fun and some information to help you get a show going, keep yours going, or make it better. And if you like what's going on here on the show, I would appreciate it, so appreciate it, if you could leave a rating or review on iTunes. You can find out how to do that at podcastfasttrack.com/review. That's enough of that kind of stuff. Let's get you podcastificated right away. Okay, if you did not hear episode 70 with Dave Jackson by now, it's too late. I've already changed it. I've already fixed my flub. But hey, if you really want to hear what it is I'm talking about, there was this thing, I like to use musical transitions and I like to use sound effects and stuff like that. And there was this thing that happened in my software somehow where all those things got out of sequence. And so some of the music was playing on top of Dave's voice, on top of my voice. Sound effects were just mixed right in. It sounded like a total amateur nut job did that edit. And I guess, in a sense, I did, because I did a very amateur thing on that episode. You want to know what it was? I didn't go back and check my work afterward. I was in a hurry. I just rushed. I thought, this is my podcast. If there's anything messed up, it's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. But man, it was a big deal. When I started listening to it the next week, which I typically do just to make sure it sounds okay, man, that thing was embarrassing. So if you want to hear the actual original episode, it's linked in the show notes for this episode. So if you're listening on an app, you can go and download it. By swiping right or left, find the description for this episode, and you will be able to download the original boneheaded episode 70 with Dave Jackson. And Dave, man, I got to say, I am so sorry. That was just a bummer thing to do. But anyway, it introduces us to a great topic. What should you do when you discover, even after the fact, like I did, that your podcast episode is messed up in some way? Well, given that I am a podcast editor by trade and that I try to coach people how to do podcasting the right way on this particular podcast, I thought about just leaving that episode with Dave as is, and then doing this episode to comment on it and to make some suggestions about how you can avoid that kind of thing in the future. But I thought to myself, this is a kind of a time irrelevant thing that we're in when we do podcasting. I mean, people in the future could hear that thing and they don't need to hear a messed up episode. I can link it in the show notes for this one, as I already referred to, and people can hear what I'm referring to that way. So I didn't want to leave the episode messed up as it was. So I've already gone back and I've corrected it. And let me just say this, it took me a very long time to correct. And that's one of the things I had to kind of struggle through on my own, because I was thinking, as I became aware of the issue, man, this is going to take me so long. It's so much time I've put into the thing already, blah, blah, blah. And, all those excuses that come up against the desire for excellence were there in my own head. And I had to eventually just say, no, I'm not going to allow this piece of junk episode to stay out there for future people to hear, because what does that say about my reputation as a podcast editor, as a producer? It says I don't care about quality, and that's not true at all. So I went back and I fixed it. I invested the time. It probably took me an hour and a half to 2 hours to go back and fix everything because I really had to do a lot of the edits over. Even though I could use significant portions of the track, I still had to fix the parts that were all walking on top of each other. And so that brings up this whole issue of what should you do? Well, first of all, I just want to point out mistakes are going to happen. You got to know that. I mean, don't have this standard of perfection such that if you make a mistake of the nature that I did, you just can't live with it. You're going to kill yourself or beat yourself up forever because of that kind of thing. Hey, relax. It's the beauty of podcasting. I mean, it's not like a TV show or a radio show where, you see the president on TV, national television, and he's saying something, he thinks he's off mic, and oh my goodness, what a mess. It's not like that. Podcasting is something where you can go back and you can fix the problem for future people who will hear the episode, which is exactly what I did on episode 70. So if you haven't heard episode 70 and you were to go and download it today, you would hear the corrected version. Now, did you know that you can do that? Almost any media host worth its salt will allow you to replace a file with another file. Now, I use Libsyn for this particular show, and I know in Libsyn, you've got to replace that file with another file that is corrected with the exact same name so that it will replace with no problem. And all your players that you've embedded across the internet or all the links you've made will actually still work if you do it that way. You can change the name, but then you also have to change all those links and all those embeds. So you need to keep that in mind, at least with Libsyn. I don't know how Blueberry does it. I don't know how Podbean does it. Any of those places, I just really don't know what they do. But the point is this. If you have the opportunity to fix it, I would suggest you go back and fix it. Suck it up. Take the time required to make it the very best that it can be. Because like Dave was talking about on episode 70, if you spend your time making a good podcast, that's the best step toward making a popular podcast. Now, another thing I would say about this whole thing, if you're going to be podcasting, you don't need to take yourself incredibly seriously. I mean, let yourself laugh about it. I mean, I was bugged by it because I was listening in my car, had on my earbuds, and I'm driving along, and it's got these issues. And man, I was having like a personal volcano in my car there. And I have to tell you, I felt all kinds of things. Angry at myself, embarrassed, all the fears about what would potential clients think. And, I had to fight through all of that stuff. And I'm just here to tell you, man, if you're going to put content out there for other people to benefit from, for other people to hear or read or use, you're going to make mistakes. Get over it. Get over yourself. Just relax. Let yourself off the hook, so to speak, and be kind to yourself because you need to just get back on the horse, as mom and dad used to say, and do it better next time. And if you have the opportunity to correct it like I did, then you do that. Now, before I wrap up this episode about my big blunder, I just have to say it again. Dave Jackson, man, you're such a gracious guy. I'm so sorry that I did that on the particular episode where I featured you. But hey, into the future, for all the generations of our posterity, it will be as it was meant to be in the first place. And that, my friends, is one of the joys of podcasting. You and I get to put out great content that truly can help people. And if we mess it up, we can just go back and fix it. Hey, I'm so thankful that you joined me for this brief and embarrassing episode of Podcastification. You know what time it is. It's time to go out and make it a podcastificating day. This show is brought to you by Podcast Fast Track, where my team provides professional podcasting services without the time suck. Full production, editing, and show notes all-in-one monthly subscription package. You can find out more at podcastfasttrack.com. Now go out and make it a podcastificating day. Audio editing and show notes by podcastfasttrack.com. Get 15% off your first month by mentioning this show.